Hello YouTube friends and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Deidre from Our Upcycled Life and I do lots of thrifting, upcycling, repurposing, and DIY content. And today's video is full of spooky Halloween decor. I have 3 projects, 2 from the recycling bin, 1 from the thrift store. They all turned out spooktacular and I'm excited to show them. Okay, let's get started. First spooky project that we're going to work on is this faux book that I found at the thrift store. Opens up, there's storage inside, and I have a fantastic idea of what I can do to turn it into some spooky Halloween decor. I put 1 coat of that black chalk paint over that entire book, and now I'm going to put on a coat of my white homemade chalk paint. I like layering up the colors because the black is going to peek through and make it look old and dirty and spooky when it's all finished. Now I went out into my garden and I just got some dirt and I'm gonna rub it right into that dry chalk paint. It's gonna give it that really dirty look, like it's been a well-used book with dirty fingers all the time. You can use sand, you can use dirt, and just rub it right in aggressively until you feel you've got the color that you want. And you can see in the corners how it's picked up some of that dirt color, exactly what I wanted. I'm going to add a bit more, and you can spray it with a little bit of water too if you want it to stick a bit. And now I'm going to take a toothbrush, and I've got some black acrylic paint and brown acrylic paint, and I'm just flicking it here and there on that book. And if you can't find one of these books at the thrift store, you can do this to an old book that's not usable anymore and it's missing pages and you want to upcycle it. You just won't have the storage on the inside. And I've got the perfect graphic that I designed for this project. I printed this off on my LaserJet printer, making sure to reverse the text. And if you like this graphic, it's going to be available in my Etsy store. I'll put the link down below in the description. We're using our Mod Podge mat, and we're going to put that liberally over that whole piece of paper. Now you can do this technique with an inkjet. I have lots of comparison techniques, so I'll also put those links down below, and you can check that out also. I also wanted to put a graphic on the spine of the book, so I just used a portion of that graphic to do that also. Now I want to work on the pages of this book. I just took some acrylic brown paint, brushed it on, and then wiped it off with a paper towel, added a little black too, and I just think it gave it that touch of the pages. Now these graphics have sat overnight. We're just going to dampen them with a damp rag with some water until you can just start to see the graphic show through, and then we're going to rub off the paper and we're going to be left with this spooky graphic on the front of this book. I use this technique a lot on my channel because it's so versatile and it's so affordable. All you need is some paper and some Mod Podge and some patience. So here we have our graphics on the book. I'm adding some more dirt so I can get some more aged look, and this is turning out fantastic. And I'm of course making a huge mess too as I'm doing this, but it's going to be worth it in the end. I'm going to seal everything up with some polyacrylic sealer, and we've taken this faux book from the thrift store and turned it into a fantastic piece of Halloween decor. And you can fill it up with candy or treats and have out to display on Halloween night. Next project is going to come right out of the recycling bin. I'm going to upcycle this large Crown Royal bottle first. First thing we're going to do, we're going to paint it with the homemade white chalk paint. I'm adding the white where the label was, and then I'm going to add black all around the outside of it. It doesn't have to be completely perfect because remember, we're turning this into spooky Halloween decor. When you're painting glass, you always want to make sure that you're using chalk paint. Acrylic paint or latex paint will just chip right off or peel off. Now I've got my dirt out again and I'm rubbing it all over that dry black chalk paint. Gonna give it an aged antique vintage look to this bottle. So if you've got any glass jars or bottles in your recycling bin right now, you're gonna wanna go out and grab them and give this technique a try. Now I'm going to go over that entire bottle, except where the white label is, with polyacrylic sealer. I'm using the matte polyacrylic, and I'm just putting a light coat over top of that black chalk paint and that dirt. And we're going to let it just get a little bit tacky, and then we're going to add some more dirt again. You want to make sure you're putting some gloves on for this step because it gets really messy. And now we're going to put on some more polyacrylic sealer. Now I've put some polyacrylic sealer in a separate dish because we don't want to dip our paintbrush into that polyacrylic container with dirt on it, and just kind of let it drip and run where it goes. And I think this looks fantastic. We're now ready to put the graphic on. Again, same process as that first project. Printed this off on my LaserJet printer, making sure to reverse it. It's available in my Etsy store if you want to grab this using my Mod Podge mat. I'm going to center it right in the middle of that white label. Set it aside. We're going to let it dry for 24 hours. And now I'm dampening it with a rag with a little bit of water, rubbing it off, and we have spooky graphics on that upcycled Crown Royal bottle. Now I'm going to seal that up with some polyacrylic sealer. We're going to add some twine to the top of the bottle now that it's all dry, and just tie it on there nice and tight. And then I'm going to go to my yard, and I've got some really dried, crispy leaves on branches that I'm just going to stick in it. And I think it makes a perfect way to finish off this spooky Halloween bottle. So if you or your family members enjoy Crown Royal, or if you have friends that do, have them save those bottles because they turn into perfect Halloween decor. Now we have that smaller Crown Royal bottle. I'm going to paint it with some white homemade chalk paint, making sure to cover it really well, set it aside, let it dry, and then we're going to put on a second coat also. Printed off this graphic. I've made sure I've sized it up for my project, reversed it, printed it on my LaserJet printer. We're going to cut it out, and this is not going to fit all across the bottle, so I'm going to cut it in half and then put go on the top and away on the bottom, and it's going to fit onto this project better. One tip when you're doing this technique is to make sure that you're using the cheapest computer paper that you can find, because the thicker the computer paper, the more you're going to have to rub off. So I just buy the cheapest paper I can find on Amazon, and it works really great. Using my Mod Podge mat, putting a little bit on the paper, putting it exactly where I want it on my project, making sure there's no bubbles and wrinkles on it, and then we're going to set it aside and let it dry for 24 hours. Dampened it with a little bit of water, and we're rubbing off that paper, and we've got a really spooky graphic on this bottle. We're going to seal it up with some polyacrylic sealer, and now comes the fun part. I found this taper candle. I had it in my stash, but I'm sure I probably picked it up at the thrift store at some point, and I just made it so it would fit into the neck of the bottle. Tying some twine onto the top, making sure it's nice and tight on there. Now I've got a red crayon. I'm taking the paper off. I've put the candle into that bottle. I've lit it. Now I'm taking that crayon and I'm going to hold it over the flame. It's going to melt that crayon, and as it does, it's going to drip down and look like blood. And you can just kind of do it wherever you want. Let it melt and drip and flow over that candle onto the bottle. And it doesn't get much more spooky than that. This was fun, but make sure you're doing it somewhere where you've got a protected area, because the wax, if you get it on your table, it's going to create a mess, and don't burn it unattended. I hope you've enjoyed today's spooky upcycles and I've inspired you to make something like this yourself. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. And if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy either of these two. Take care.